You are welcome. This is Messiah Revelation Ministry and Time Prophetic Ministry. Those of you who have watched the channel, you know the focus of the channel. The focus of the channel is on end times. And today we are looking at major issues affecting the church, affecting people's faith. I watched a video. The video was presented by a woman who is an American, a black American woman, and the video is about the decline of the black church, focusing on United States. Why is it that the black church in America is declining? People are not going to church. They don't want to have anything to do with the Bible. They don't have anything to do with the church. And so many reasons were given based upon the comments that people inserted in the comments section in the video. So I watched the comments, a lot of them, over 1,000 comments, and I read them, and the comments are very, very important. And so today I've decided to go over the subject. Why is it that the church is declining? Why is it that the black church in America is declining? Before we go into our discussion, I want to make preliminary observation. And the observation I've seen is that a lot of people are offended. They are offended because of how you reference them. People are offended when you call them they are black Americans. Some are offended if you call them they are African Americans. And some are offended when you call them people of color. Some are offended when you call them Americans. So I want to make a comment that at the time that we are in, what is relevant is people's salvation, because a time is coming when which country you were born in and which reference that people give to you, the name they call you, all those things will not be relevant. The most important thing that's relevant at this time is preparing for your salvation. And wherever you find your salvation, go there so that you can get to your salvation. If you are at a place and you are facing a risk, the risk of losing your eternal salvation, and run away from that place. And so today we are looking at some of the comments that were made why black churches are declining in America. And I believe that the comments also involve churches all over the world, in Africa, in America, in Asia, and in Europe, and other places in the world. One of the reasons is related to motives. Why do people go to church in the first place? Some people go to church because they want a partner, and they want a woman, they want a man. And some people go to church because they are there for entertainment. And I met a student in America. He's a Nigerian, and he didn't go to church. He told me he was going to do a degree in theology, because if he went to Nigeria, he want to be a pastor. Why would he want to be a pastor? He want to be a pastor because he found out that a lot of people are making money from churches. And so money is a motive. People go to church for reasons of money. They want to hear sermons. They want to hear motivation speeches, teaching them how to make money. So the issue of motive is important. And the video that I watched, one of the comments said that the person like going to church to listen to music. But now that he has access to music online, songs are online, he doesn't have to go to church to listen to music. It's very, very pathetic because based upon the comment, um, I, you can deduce that the person went to church and what attracted him to church was music, the choir, how people sang and how people actually worship in the choir. And that is the only reason why he went to church. And now that as a result of online, people can watch videos online, he doesn't have any reason to go to church. And so motive is important. And one of the comments said, I don't want to be part of a religion that allow people to be enslaved. Uh, and so people are offended. They are offended about Christianity because Christianity um, is an institution that participated in slavery, in slave trade. And so, is that a valid reason that because Christianity was involved in slavery, you don't want to be part of Christianity? You don't want to go to church because it was the Christian church that brought slavery, that brought um, um, racism, that brought oppression. Is that a valid reason? Is it only Christianity that brought slavery and slave trade? What about Islam? Why is it that people are not going to church, but they are going to the mosque? And so people have their own reasons why they are not going to church, but to single out Christianity and say that I'm not going to church, or you are not going to church because Christianity is a religion that acquiesced, that participated, that condones slavery. I'm not going to church. Some people even have made comment that the Bible endorses slavery, and they cite the writings of Paul to suggest that the Bible endorses slavery, and they make a blasphemy by saying that God even supported slavery because the gospel supported slavery, and so they don't want to worship God, and they don't want to worship um, uh, in a Christian church, and even when they are worshiping, they actually don't want to have anything to do with the writings of Paul. There are certain Bible texts that they agree with, and others they don't agree with. They want to be very selective about the Word of God. Excuse me. And I believe that if you claim that Christianity is a bad religion, or it shouldn't be a religion at all, you are not. I think you are losing the point, and the point that you are losing is that your salvation is more important, and so you don't want to worship God because Christianity is a slave master's religion. You don't want to attend a church because there's something wrong with the church. If you look at the church history, the church has always had something wrong, some defect, but it doesn't mean that you should stop going to church just because Christianity was involved in slavery. Um, are you boycotting corporations because corporations were involved in slavery? Companies were involved in slavery. There were nations that were involved in slavery. There were banks that were involved in slavery. Are you boycotting them because they were involved in slavery? So that is a very bad excuse for suggesting that Christianity is a religion that endorses slavery, and so you don't want to have anything to do with Christianity. One of the comments said that people stop going to church, or they have stopped listening to sermons because the sermons are outdated sermons. And I believe there's validity in that argument. I was talking to a young man in Ghana, and he told me about his experience. He went to church one day, he listened to the pastor, and the pastor preached a sermon. And this young man said that he knew the website where the pastor got the sermon from. Nowadays, there are a lot of pastors. They don't do any research about the Bible. They have not even read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation once in their lifetime. And they can cite certain scriptures, but they cite the scriptures out of context. They preach out of context, and they don't even have Bibles. They only read the Bible when they are going to preach, and so they will be preaching outdated sermons. And the sermon that were preached hundreds of years ago, are they still relevant now? At the time when we are preaching the arrival of the Messiah, at the time that we are in the book of Revelation, a lot of people are preaching old sermons. They are preaching from old books, and they are not revising their notes. They are not revising their sermons. They are not refreshing their knowledge of the Bible. They don't read anything aside the Bible, no concordance, no dictionaries, and they don't have the knowledge base to support their understanding of the Bible. They don't even pray, they don't fast, and so they don't have revelation to enrichen their sermons. Their sermons are outdated, and that is the reason why many people said in the video that I watched why they are not going to church. The church has played a major role, particularly the Black church in America. The church played a role in emancipation. The church is playing a role in civil rights. But beyond that, there's more that the church can do. And the church should be able to maintain the congregation. And when whatever you have to do to maintain the congregation, you need to do that. And it means that you need to revise your sermons and enriching your knowledge. And you need to watch the content, what you preach. If you preach things that are not relevant, people will not want to come to the church, and they don't want to have anything to do with sermons that are outdated. Nowadays, a lot of sermons, a lot of preachers are preaching about prosperity. Prosperity gospels have spread over the world, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in America, and the sermons are outdated. We are not after prosperity, we are after salvation. And so we have to preach sermons that are relevant for salvation, not prosperity gospel. And a lot of people have stopped going to church because the sermons are outdated. I watched the comments, and one of the reasons why people have stopped going to church, they said, is because of Israel. Israel as the state of Israel. And there are valid reasons for that, because the churches now, they preach false doctrines with regard to Israel. And recently, because of the atrocities committed by the state of Israel, a lot of people are upset because they watch pastors, and some of them justify the atrocities committed by Israel, and some of them do not criticize Israel, and some of them wrongly assume that Israel of 1948 is the biblical Israel. And because of all this ideological and propaganda, the politics of their sermons regarding Israel, many people don't want to have anything to do with the church. They don't want anything to have to Christian. They don't want anything to do with Christian Zionism. They don't want to have anything to do with hypocrisy, and they don't want to have anything to do with a church that is so aligned with evil. Isaiah 5 verse 20. Woe to those who say evil is good and good is evil, light is darkness and darkness is light. And so the video that I watched has a lot of comments, and many people say that they have stopped going to church because the church that they attend, and these are the churches that are preaching all the time on Israel, 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 and they don't have discernment that when we are talking about Israel, it is not a geographic area, it is not a state. Israel encompasses those who have faith in God, and the Bible is clear that Abraham was considered a righteous person because of his faith, and by faith, all people over the world they are descendants. They are children of Abraham by faith. So the doctrine of Israel that is preached by a lot of churches, particularly churches in America, and that has dissuaded people from going to church. It has actually created a situation where people don't want to have to do anything to do with a church that condones racism, a church that condones hypocrisy, a church that condones atrocity in the name of a people who assume that they are the chosen of God, they are the children of God, even though they don't believe in the Messiah, they don't believe in Jesus Christ. That has created tension in the church, and this is one of the reasons that the black church in America has declined. I watch the comments, and many people also they subscribe to the idea that Christianity is a church funded by white men, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate when somebody makes a statement that Christianity is a white man's religion. That is not true. Anybody who makes that statement ignores the history of the church. It goes to, I will probably blame those who brought racism to Christianity, those who preach that some races are blessed, others are cursed, and there's no black person mentioned in the Bible. And they created that impression that the Bible is a white man's Bible, Christianity is a white man's religion. But that's not true. There are so many researchers that have done good work, and they have traced the contribution of black people in the Christian church and the origin of Christianity in Africa. And if you read a book written by John Johnson, um, black biblical heritage, you know that Christianity emerged in Africa 300 years, 3 centuries before it went to Europe. And so it is not true that Christianity is a white man's religion. And so if people are not going to church because they perceive that the church is a white man's church, that is false. It is a false assumption. Apostle Paul preached Christianity to the Gentiles, Gentile Rome, Gentile Greece. And I don't want to go into the race of the apostles, but those who have watched this channel, you know that the key figures in the Bible, they were black, they were African, based upon their genealogy and based upon the scriptures, even though people have distorted the Bible. And so if you are a black person and you say Christianity is a white man's religion, and that is false. If you are teaching that, that's a false teaching, and you are a stumbling block, and you are leading so many people to perdition. Christianity is not a white man's religion. It was a black man who carried the cross of the Messiah. He was from Cyrene, which was a black nation now, and that nation is Libya. And the next thing that I want to comment, even before I go to the next point, it's very ironic that somebody doesn't want to go to church because the Christian church, is a white man's religion. And so they don't want to go to a white man's religion. And some of them say that they don't want to worship their slave masters. Okay, assuming that is a valid argument, why is it that a black person will join the Freemason? Why is it that a black person will join the Illuminati? Illuminati is a white man's organization. It is a secret organization. It's a cult. The Freemason is a white man's Freemason. Why is it that black people who don't want to go to church because it's a white man's religion, why would they be members of the Freemason? Why would they be members of the Illuminati? And when the Freemason did not accept black people's membership, a lot of people founded a black version of the Freemason, and they enjoy the practices and the paganism and the occultism of the white man. But they don't want to go to a church because they consider that church is a white man's church. But they want to be part of the Freemason and Illuminati. That is a secret society funded by white people and controlled by white people. It doesn't make sense. There's a contradiction there. I watched the comments, and one of the comments was made by the presenter, the person who did the video, Sabi Sabs, and that's the video presenter's name. I don't know whether that is her real name, but she's an African American. And she made a comment, and the comment is a popular observation that a lot of people, particularly the young men, and I'm not only talking about America, I'm talking about all over the world. They don't want to hear certain messages in the church. When the messages are preached in the church, they don't want those messages to be preached. And the messages are messages about, quote unquote, doom and gloom. Doom and gloom. They don't want to hear doom and gloom messages. I gave a book to an elder of a church in Ghana, and I told him to preach the contents of the book to his congregation. And he's preaching to young men. And the book is about judgment. And the man told me that he cannot preach from that book because they don't want to hear anything about judgment. They don't want to hear anything about gloom and doom. Gloom and doom. And what they consider to be gloom and doom is a sermon about judgment. Unfortunately, this channel is focused on salvation and judgment. And when the Lord comes, the Lord is not coming to play, He's not coming to eat pizza, He's not coming to drink wine, He's coming to judge. He's the judge of this world, is coming for judgment. Are you preparing yourself for judgment? Are you preparing your congregation for judgment? And so if the black church in America has declined because people don't want to hear anything about doom and gloom, and that is unfortunate. I had a vision recently, and in that vision, and I was told to preach salvation, to talk about salvation to black Americans. And somebody will be offended. Why are you talking about black Americans? Why are you talking about salvation to black Americans? Why is a white person talking about salvation to black people? Why is a black person talking about salvation to white people? You make those arguments, and the Lord will be listening to you, and the day of judgment will come, and you account for your work, you account for your deeds, and you know that the day of the Lord is a day of judgment. It is not a Boston Tea Party. And you need to be aware. And if you are not preaching about judgment and salvation, and you are a pastor, you are a failure, and you better stop your pastoring, because you are dead. You are like the church, the dead church, the Laodicean church. The Messiah is coming, judgment is coming, and you don't have to preach a sermon that is good in the ears of the hearer. Your obligation is to warn. Your obligation is to blow the alarm. Your obligation is to sound the trumpet. And this channel is a watchman's channel. And we preach about salvation. We preach about judgment. And we are not interested in people viewing the channel and liking the channel because the content are palatable. We are mandated to blow the horn, to blow the trumpet. And Zephaniah chapter 1, verses 14 to 18 talks about the day of the Lord that is coming. And so if you have a child, whether a daughter or a son, you have a friend, and you don't want to preach about doom and gloom to that person, you don't want to talk to that person about salvation, you are a curse to that person, and because the day of the Lord is not about good news. It will be good news for those who have repented, but it will be bad news for those who are still in sin. And as we look at the time that we are in, is a time that is a perilous time. We are approaching the time of the Messiah, and we need to heed to the prophecies in the Bible. And the prophecies say that in the last days there will be apostasy. People will break away from the faith, and they will be apostate. And the apostasy has begun. And as so many people have reasons why they are not going to church, they are discrediting the church, and you see people on the internet and offline, and they are saying that there's nothing like Christianity in the Bible. The Bible is fake, and um, the Lord is not even coming again. There are pastors who are preaching. They are in Africa. They are all over the world. They are preaching that there wouldn't be a second coming of Christ, and they are preaching that the Bible is fake because there are certain books that were taken out of the Bible, and so the Bible is fake. Remember what Paul told Timothy in the letter that he wrote to Timothy, and we read it for the record. 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 1. Now the Spirit speaks expressly that in the later times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. And so there are so many arguments that are used by people and why they don't want to go to church. And some of the arguments are relevant, but some of them are doctrines of demons. If you are not going to church because the pastor is not preaching the truth, the pastor is a false teacher, he's a false prophet. The pastor is a man and he's married to a man. The pastor is a woman and she is married to a woman. You have a valid reason not going to church. But if you say that you are not going to church because Christianity was involved in slavery, you are making a wrong argument. And I've heard people in Ghana, in other places, they say, I will not go to a church if the pastor is younger than me. I will not go into a church if it is a small church. I will only go to a mega church. And some people even go to church where they preach English. They are not English people, but they prefer going to a church where they preach English. Colonial mentality and wrong reasons for wrong people at the wrong time. Remember that we will be individually responsible for our salvation. And the church is not a white man's church, even though it has been defined by white people, it has been defined by black people, it has been defined by demons. It's still a church. And the Messiah wrote letters to the 7 churches. And you read it in the book of Revelation. And you know that the Messiah had something to say, something bad to say about all the 7 churches. But still, the Messiah, Yeshua, encouraged the churches. He who overcomes will take part in the kingdom of the Messiah that is coming very soon. We will continue commenting on the reason why the church is declining, and we will go to other factors in our next video. But in today, we have just a glimpse of the reasons why the black church is declining in America, and the symptoms of the black church in America is just a tip of the iceberg of the symptoms of the church all over the world, Africa included, Asia included, Europe included. This is Messiah Revelation Ministry. Thank you for watching this video.